Chukotka. It is one of the few sparsely populated places on our planet where almost no scientist has ever set foot. So when a group of highly motivated researchers with a small aircraft appears here, we can expect something special.
На Чукотку мы попали первый раз в 2000 году, а в Meinypilgyno приехали в 2001 году.
We first came to Chukotka in the year 2000 and arrived in Meinypilgino settlement in 2001. We spent a long time choosing a place on the map that would be interesting for us from a geographical and ornithological points of view. This area has a very diverse bird population. Almost 200 species have been recorded here over a 20-year period of research.
Сперва нам было интересно заниматься всеми птицами, это было важно.
At first, we were interested in studying all the birds, but pretty soon we noticed that there was a species standing out of all. It was the spoon-billed sandpiper. As it turned out, the number of its population has decreased dramatically over the past 40 years, by almost 90%. It's important to study spoon-billed sandpiper all over the distribution area, not only in nesting grounds, but also in wintering sites and on the flyway. In the following years, an international expedition under the leadership of Evgeny Surachkovsky has launched a complex and multi-purpose research of spoon-billed sandpiper and other species.
Ну, тогда мы не пойдем туда, давай приходи, выводок не будем разгонять, а потом придем проверим яйцо через пару дней.
There are very few spoon-billed sandpiper breeding pairs left worldwide. We estimated only about 250 pairs. These are approximate numbers. Unfortunately, it is not possible to count every bird individually, neither in nesting nor in wintering areas.
Основная локальная группировка лопатни находится здесь, в Meinypilgyno.
The main local group of the species is located here in Meinypilgyno. Previously, it nested from the north of Chukotka to the north of Kamchatka, but due to a decline in numbers, its range has also shrunk. There are no more spoon-billed sandpiper either on the Belyak Spit or on the Ruskaya Koshka, as well as in many other places over Chukotka coastline. But there was a little mystery. We knew for sure that it must be nesting somewhere else, as on wintering grounds we have observed more birds than here within his classical, previously known breeding grounds. So one of the important tasks of the project was to find these hiding local groups in surrounding areas. Primarily, we were up to check the southern Chukotka and maybe somewhere else nearby.
И тогда появилась новая идея.
That's how the new idea appeared, to try and look for the spoon-billed sandpiper using an aircraft. Don't be surprised and don't laugh. It's not at all like we could sight a bird from an airplane. Of course not. It's just that a small aircraft makes it possible to visit extremely inaccessible places that are out of the reach for the scientists.
Но самолет здесь, конечно,
We use
находится
the airplane not only to study the spoonbill sandpiper, of course. Almost 200 species of birds can be seen occasionally in Meinypilgino, two-thirds of them on the regular basis. Air census is one of the most interesting and friendly methods of studying waterfowl, when you can observe and count birds without coming closer and disturbing them.
Самолет, он построен специально для того, чтобы можно было
The aircraft was designed and built especially for the waterfowl air census, so it can fly at the same speed, take off and land next to the birds. It perfectly covers one of the general requests of bird studies in Chukotka, to quickly explore large, remote and hard-to-reach territories. You fly for 10 minutes instead of traveling all day by a cross-country vehicle. We make photos of bird groups on the land or on the water, and then in winter count them in comfortable laboratory conditions.
максимальный взлетный вес примерно 700 килограммов.
The maximum takeoff weight of the aircraft is 700 kilos. Fuel capacity is 100 liters. Approximate fuel consumption is from 17 to 19 liters per hour. With the tank full, we can safely fly and count birds for 5 hours. The aircraft runs on motor gasoline AI-95 or can also run on aviation fuel with lead added.
Специально сделано открывающееся окно.
An opening window was especially made to take photos without distortion during the flight. This allows us to have shots sharp and clear, which we wouldn't gain if we took pictures through the glass.
А если через стекло, то много искажений может быть.
Скажи, пожалуйста,
Вот
а
так
точки
вот.
хотя бы переписаны?
Нет, точки у меня не приписаны.
Они у тебя в GPS должны вбиты все быть.
Нет, а зачем? У нас же были выводки, мы выводки уже находили.
Все
Сейчас
равно,
будут
хотя бы,
выводки.
чтобы было понимание, поскольку...
А я тебе прислала. С координатами градусными, помнишь? Неважно.
Все, да? 5 часов нас никто беспокоить не будет.
Вот у нас такое есть маленькое средство связи, почти игрушечное. Это я тебе дам рацию, ладно, чтобы просто можно было...
Невозможно.
Вот до самолета, чтобы не кричать.
его уж там на земле,
Сыну.
Понятно, это на земле.
Это на земле, да. Но только можно тебе сразу куда-нибудь положить в кармане?
Одним из основных видов нашей деятельности, помимо, собственно,
One of our main activities, apart from nest searching and observations of the spoonbills themselves, is marking them for further individual recognition. Rings and flags we use for marking allow us to gain more information as we begin to recognize them by face. Thus, we can estimate their survival rates and the percent of their return to nesting sites. Also, we monitor marked individuals all along the flyway. There is an international database on sightings of the spoonbill sandpipers at nesting sites, migration stopovers, and wintering grounds. This allows us to study the population dynamics of this rare species and track even the minor declines or increases. We also distinguish birds by sex. We know their age, which bird was born last year or the year before, we know who their parents are, etc. All this information is then processed and analyzed by researchers, which is crucial for the conservation of the species. Much attention was also paid to the red knot, which regional subspecies nests on the coastal spits close to Meinypilgyno, right next to the spoonbills. This species leads a rather secretive lifestyle, and only individual marking made it possible to discover its biological characteristics, reproduction timing, incubation regime, participation of each parent in caring for the offsprings, as well as the return to nesting sites. How do we manage to catch an adult? We mount a claptrap on a nest, and in the nest we usually place eggs models or a recorder with the chicks' voices depending on the stage of incubation. Today the number of red knot here is estimated at about 20 pairs. With the help of geologgers, tiny electronic transmitters, it was possible to trace the migration routes of the species with its key stopover sites. As it turned out, it flies from Meinypilgino to New Zealand, covering 12,000 kilometers above the Pacific Ocean.
Чего, иголкой, да?
Иголкой протертую. Evolutionary Shorebird Science – это большой международный проект, который курирует Дебреценский университет.
Evolutionary Shorebird Science is a comprehensive international project supervised by the University of Debrecen, Hungary. The main goal of this project is to study the evolution of sexual behavior of waders in different parts of the globe. Why were waders chosen? Because this is a unique bird group which implements all life and sexual strategies that are described for birds in general. There are species in which both parents take care of the offsprings, and there are species in which only the female or only the male takes care. 28 research teams currently take part in the project, working on different continents. In Chukotka, golden plover, ringed plover, and Mongolian plover were chosen as model species. We installed cameras to monitor the incubation process to find out which parent was incubating and in what order. All collected data is subsequently analyzed.
Камеры еще также могут помочь, что если будет гнездо съедено или там разорено кем-то, то...
If a nest is destroyed, cameras can also help to determine who did it and when.
Естественно, что эта работа не новая по кольцеванию.
Each chick and nesting adult bird of these three model species, golden ringed and Mongolian plovers, are additionally marked with individual color rings. Birds with those rings return to their nesting sites in subsequent years. For example, some ringed plovers had been recorded for 8 years. Unfortunately, sometimes the individual color rings are being lost, so not all the birds marked can always be identified individually later. This year we observed 8 ring plovers previously marked.
Нет, этот Павел Станиславович его, наоборот, он заказывал.
In the field, we study the bird distribution, abundance, and the dynamics of their areas. Also, we evaluate the rate of their nesting success and other indicators. One of the fundamental methods is ringing and color marking, which initially helped the scientists to find out that waders nesting in Chukotka moved to their wintering grounds in Southeast Asia, China, the Arabian Peninsula, Australia, and New Zealand. This knowledge was used in the official lists of vulnerable species as the Red Book of Chukotka and Russia. Rigorous and regular studies are important for conservation of the amazing diversity of birds breeding in Chukotka.
В плане гусеобразных птиц, особенно гусей, Чукотка очень интересное место, потому что здесь обитают птицы.
As for anseriforms, especially geese, Chukotka is a very interesting place because it is home to birds nesting not only in Russia but also on the North American continent. The case of the snow goose population in the region is quite unusual. By the mid-50s, all mainland colonies of the species were practically exterminated. The only large colony remained within the Wrangel Island Nature Reserve. Since then, the Chukotka population of the snow goose is getting restored, all coming from a single source on Wrangel Island. Over the past 20 years, the number of snow goose has been growing rapidly, especially in America. The size of the Wrangel Island population is also growing, so it would be logical to expect a surge of birds and repopulation of those territories where they had previously been exterminated. So one of the important tasks of our waterfowl air census in Chukotka is the search for newly emerging mainland snow goose colonies.
Посмотреть линники гуся-белошеек, являющиеся также общим видом.
Another big story monitored by us is looking at the molting grounds of the emperor goose in southern Chukotka. This species, also common for Alaska, breeds in America and migrates to molt in Russia. These are the two Eurasian American species we are focused on, as well as on white-fronted tundra bean and black brant goose. What we do is counting and monitoring molting birds, broods, and early concentrations of such massive species in the lower Anadromous lowland, where Meinypilgyno settlement is located.
Использование для таких масштабных задач малой авиации, оно единственный возможный вариант.
Using small aircraft is the only effective option for gaining such large-scale tasks in the region. Therefore, this 3-year project on monitoring Arctic geese is completely dependent on the use of the light aircraft Sterk C-1, which has for many years performed its excellent qualities for bird counts.
Мейnypilgynская озерно-речная система интересна тем, что здесь нерестится самое крупное на Чукотке стадо нерки.
The Meinypilgyno Lake River system is of particular interest from the point of view of fishing resources, since Chukotka's largest stock of red salmon spawns here. In the years of good approaches, the number reaches 600,000 fish. In addition, pink salmon are found here. Their numbers can reach from 1 to 1.2 billion fish. Fish resources here are of the highest value, unlike the Sakhalin Island, because salmon comes here in a form of silverfish, not yet having significant mating changes. Then fish pass into the lakes, where they stay in settling areas for at least 2 weeks before entering the spawning grounds. There, the main part of the fish acquires the mating coloration. They turn bright red. They enter the rivers mainly in the stage of mating coloring. What happens after spawning? All fish that took part in the spawning die without exception. The resulting organic matter ends up in the lake sediments and becomes food for young red salmon fish. After wintering in April-May, larvae hatch from the eggs and roll down from the rivers into lakes, where the juveniles live from 1 to 3 years. When they reach the size of 10 to 12 centimeters, they go down to the sea and live there for another period from 2 to 5 years, and then return back to the rivers for spawning. Both humans and animals feed on the red salmon. For example, the main consumer is brown bear, followed by seagulls, eagles, and lager seal.
Тюлень ларга, то есть...
Of the seals in this ecosystem, only larga is found. It is a typical ichthyophag, feeding mainly on fish that enter the lakes. It hunts red salmon, but prefers pink salmon as an easier prey. In the sea, the red salmon fish is hunted primarily by beluga whales, as well as a bunch of predatory fish. Judging by the injuries, there are an Elapisaurus, a dagger-tooth, and occasionally a shark. Major branches of studies are conservation of spoonbill sandpiper, monitoring other waders with different parenting strategies, studying geese molting processes during molts and migrations, and accounting and control of the fish population at spawning grounds. These studies are very important and should be continued annually on these areas of southeastern Chukotka.